Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our distinguished guest, Dotun Papula, artist, Papula Studio.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aubrey Ruby, and I'm a senior fellow at the Africa Center at the Atlantic Council and co-founder of Tofino Capital. And it's really my pleasure today to kind of guide us in this fascinating conversation. And I think everyone just had a wonderful lunch. And so this is a way to wake up after that good food. And we're really blessed to speak today with Dotun Papula. And you may have seen all of his work out in the lobby, so I hope if you haven't, to take a look. So Dotun, tell us, what problems are you trying to solve in your art?
Well, my works focus on environmental decadence and the need to repurpose the large amount of waste that threatens our ecosystem. If you look at, let me use Africa as a case study. Most countries in Africa, we buy our cars from the Western world.
Yep.
So you ship them.
In fact, $1 billion of used cars goes every year from the United States to Nigeria.
Car. Yes. So when it gets to Nigeria, it goes through the sea, then it gets to the road. Mm-hmm. In less than 4 months, the car becomes a scrap. So, and coupled with the fact that an average Nigerian generates 0.51 kg of waste. So, and if you look at those statistics, we have over 220 million population.
Yeah.
So if everybody generates this waste and we decide to dump them in one state, then that whole state is going to be filled with waste. If the 36 states in Nigeria decide to dump their waste.
Yes, yeah.
So for me, I think I want to save the environment while, creating a luxury piece of art from discarded material.
And this problem is only getting worse, no?
Well, it's getting worse because the number is growing every day. I mean, about 107 metric tons of waste is being generated by Nigerians. And there's a statistics that shows that by 2050, the kind of waste that will be generated in Africa will be so big that Africa will not be able to, contain it. So I have made myself to be one of the saviors of the earth by recycling those things and turning them to works of art like this.
So how did you get started in this business? Like, what made you think of this, the scrap as a medium?
Well, right from age 4, I've been an artist. I used to be very destructive. I remember vividly my dad's leather chair. I used a razor blade to design on a new leather chair. And this is a man that is living in a rented apartment, I remember our landlord used to have a Mercedes Benz. Then I used a sharp knife to design motifs. Imagine
So you've been an artist since a child?
Yes, since a child. But, I went through that process and I went to the university. So in 2014, I left the university. I finished my master's degree. And at that moment, I was destabilized. I was clueless on what to do. I had my first degree, master's degree. Then I wanted to enter the art market.
Yeah.
The art market is so big that if you don't have a niche, it will be difficult for you to survive. So I went online December 24. That's a Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need someone that can mentor me properly in this aspect of works that I do. Then I stumbled on this cowboy on Pinterest. He lives in the middle of nowhere.
And so this connection was made. You were checking the internet
Checking the
in
internet.
Lagos, and you found this guy on Pinterest from South Dakota.
Yeah. South Dakota, everyone that knows South Dakota, North Dakota, and Manitoba, they share a boundary. And I went to this cowboy, but that journey was the biggest risk of my life. You know what I did? This is a cowboy that doesn't know me. I'm texting from Lagos. I was born in Agege, and I was texting from Lagos.
He probably thought you were a prince.
So the guy thought, well, he's one of those scammers, But he said, okay, come. With the fact that he knew that if I go, at that moment, it was minus 47. Crazily cold. But he later, saw my passion
Yeah.
and said, okay, you know what? If you want to come to the United States, maybe you should come during summer. So I sold my car. I sold some of my
You
stuff.
sold it from scrap?
So I sold it. Then I flew to New York City.
Okay.
So when I got to New York City, I could only afford a ticket to New York City. So I joined a Greyhound bus for 3 days. Like Greyhound from New York City, crossing country to the middle of nowhere.
And you've probably seen more of America than I have.
Oh,
in that
yeah.
context.
I've been to about 40 states out of 50, on road trip.
Yeah.
So I got to this guy. He was sleeping up. I was sleeping in the basement, and I was scared, like cultural shock. 1 week after, he turned me to a cowboy. So I do rodeos, I do all sort of stuff, like a regular cowboy. And he taught me how to weld, taught me the basic welding that no university has things are growing gradually now. Then after the training, I returned back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
So when I go back to Nigeria, I was still battling with, okay, how do I present what I've learned, to the market? So I test run with a solo exhibition in Lagos, and the solo exhibition was a sold out.
Yeah.
So when I got that sold out, then I knew that I've hit the market. So that was what happened.
And tell us a little bit about the works we're going to see. I mean, we here have in front of us an eagle or a hawk. And what kind of parts are you using? What do you do to make it into the piece of art?
Okay, yeah, most of my works have, more like a metaphor. I use most of them to communicate on things that are not working. For instance, you see huge buffalo with generator tanks. You see bicycle tanks. You see chains. And these are, elements of dysfunction in the society. Most states, most countries in Africa, we probably don't have good road. So when you buy a car, the car gets spoiled in less than 2-3 months. So I pick them in the scrapyard, weld them, then sell it back, to the West.
Yeah.
And this is the way I, try to create a narrative around what I do by creating you can show the next slide.
And one of our themes is waste to wealth here, right? How do you turn something that is garbage and make it into treasure, right? That's always been one of the stories. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Oh, yeah.
And you've made it into that process through transformation. So we have a couple other pieces here that maybe you want to call out some on.
Well, some of these works I did in my studio in Nigeria, and I ship it to different parts of the world. For me, I think one of the things I've been able to do within the last 6 years is to create an economy for recyclers, especially guys that does metal recycling. And I think the main lesson I have learned in the few years that I've started practicing is that if I continue to create works like this, if everybody in the hall decide to give me one piece each, and it takes me 2 years to create one work, then by the time I'm 80, I wouldn't have delivered some people's work. Because each of those pieces, some take me 2 years, some take me 1 year to execute, because I need to pay attention to the anatomy excellence. I need to study the materials, the nitty-gritty of the materials, study the concept, study the philosophy, and the deep message in the work.
So I think that scale question, exactly as you said, if everyone were here to buy one of your statues and your pieces, how would you serve it? And I think many artists have come to do that various ways, right? They create a studio, they create mentees in the same way. So tell us a little bit about what you're thinking in terms of how does one scale these pieces, and everyone can see that they're huge. How do you create more? How do you get more people like you, more artists like you?
Well, I've started engaging in what I call raising role models, like training people I set up a studio very close to the Obafemi Awolowo University,
Yeah.
where I pick the students from the Department of Fine Arts, and I pick a lot of students from different schools, and I gather them in my studio and train them. Now, one of the key factors is that I'll make sure that I don't just tell them what to do, because every one of us here, we have our own creative ability. So I try to raise young guys. Now, so far, I know within Africa, let me say within Nigeria, and some part of Africa, like Kenya, Uganda, I have some of my, mentees there. I've been able to raise like 400 to 500, and the mission
400 to 500 mentees?
Mentees, yeah.
Yeah.
But, they've not really been active on a larger scale like this. Some of them are not, well, maybe they are not really encouraged because the capacity is so low. So my home mission is that I want to replicate like 1,000 of myself, maybe in Kenya, 1,000 of myself in Uganda, in different parts of Africa, so that we can, while saving the environment, we can reduce what the Nigerians will call the Japa syndrome. A lot of young guys are leaving the country and they are,
Sure.
going through the Atlantic Ocean. So if I am able to train,
Or just selling small things on the
yeah,
street.
they would make good living for themselves. If I train people in this art, I'm sure the resources that they're going to create for their own country will be so more. For me, if I live here, I'm going to Qatar, I'm going to Bahrain, I'm going to about 4 different countries to exhibit. So imagine I have, 1,000 Nigerians doing this.
Yeah.
We will save a lot, and we wouldn't even
And
stress the
also
government.
foster maybe the cultural change.
yeah.
In my experience of doing business in, say, Nigeria for 20 years, I meet so many creative professionals that are lawyers,
Yeah.
that are doctors, that are engineers, because they felt that need before they had the freedom
Yeah.
from their family or from the pressure to do something in the creative space.
Yeah.
Yet it seems to me, we just met at Art X in Lagos last week.
Last week, yeah.
It seems to me that the market, the business of art in Africa is becoming more sophisticated, so that you can see actually a pathway for having a career in it rather than it being a hobby.
Absolutely. The rate at which the art market in Africa is growing is so huge. So huge now. You see the auction houses and Sotheby's, Bonhams, and Christie's. The Nigerian artists are topping the list. We've seen all this. And I travel all over. I see works, I see museums, I see galleries all over. But when you come to, Africa, you see, you hardly would see a professional curator.
Right.
Everybody just want to be a marketer. So I feel that we have grown to a stage where we need to have a standard space. So I started this dream just skeletally. I started building a scrap art museum within my own little capacity from some of the resources I'm getting. And I know that the narrative is about to change from this stage, because it's going to go bigger.
And you're building this in Nigeria?
Yeah, I'm building this in Nigeria. We've started a lot. I've empty my account to start this before talking to the government, But here, the governments are here. My governor is there. There are senators and everybody. So I emptied my account to start this project. And what I want to, just tell us here is that it's not about me just building this. I hope that, with this forum, we can replicate this concept in different countries, in different African countries, where we can have this. I went to the Museum of the Future in Dubai,
Yes.
and I was speechless. I said, no, Africa has the capacity. We have artists that can deliver these masterpieces. We have artists that can build, from recycled materials, we'll build this structure. So one of the things I've been doing with the experiment is to use containers. I started using containers, started using generator tanks, tires, and different things to build this structure. And I can tell you it's fun, it's cheap, it's saving the environment, and it's engaging the people to work. So a lot of young guys have been, I recruited a lot of young guys within the academic environment from different schools in Nigeria, and we've been doing this structure. So the dream is to have a place where we can incubate creative intellectuals, where we can train a lot of people and send them out. They go into the environment and rescue the environment while getting life for yourself, getting resources for yourself.
Yeah, and you've seen a
that's it.
resurgence of museums across the continent as
Yeah.
well, right? The new Museum of Yoruba Culture, for
Yes.
example,
Lagos.
in Lagos. You have a lot of the restoration of art that is coming back from Europe, and then you have a resurgence of, or interest in local artists. So you have this vision of creating this scrap museum, and how's it going?
Well, it's going fine. It's going so well. But I can't do it alone, I can't. I'm just a son of Babari Waya, I'm just a son of a hawker, like my mom sells gari. So how do you expect me to do such if I'm not here?
Yeah.
And that's why we're here. But let me tell you this. This is not even the main purpose of this, discussion. It's about the fact that the template that I have can be replicated in different African countries.
Sure.
So I only have a micro idea,
Yeah.
which need to be presented here for us to accept and see how we can raise.
But with anything, you need a hub, right? And,
Yeah.
and especially if you're trying to build and catalyze this new wave of youth artists coming in, you need somewhere that they can point to and to be recognized when they have work. So how is the museum fitting in with your ideas around mentorship, for example?
Well, mentorship has always been the only song I sing. I effortlessly, raise people. I effortlessly try to impact knowledge. So the museum and this kind of hub is going to be an avenue where, like I said, we will incubate people.
Yeah.
And that's it. So we will incubate people to deliver excellence and, to give them something to do for their life.
And tell us a little bit about the mentee that we're seeing on screen and what they build.
Well, there are a lot of them. I have some guys in Kenya. I have some in Uganda. Sometimes I try to put them together and send them for residencies. Like some just went to India, in Gujarat, India, and I just do that within my own capacity. But like I said, I'm just a
One.
little star,
But you're also traveling out, right? You're going on to Bahrain and Qatar, and someone has to continue on while you're not in Lagos and you're not there. So, tell us a little bit about some of the others. You had mentioned to me this young man who's obviously building what looks like a dinosaur here.
Oh well, a guy. There's a guy that decided to create a sculpture about 40 feet tall with recycled tires. And now, you know what? When you send people to the environment to pick recycled materials, when they pick the recycled materials, like, bicycle tires, the bike man gets money to feed himself and his wife. At the same time, the environment is getting cleaned up. Now, the young guys that we train, get, good life to themselves. And at the same time, the environment is getting better. And people, will have a place where people can visit and enjoy quality art that is made out of recycled materials. So that is just basically what the museum.
No, and I recently was in Philadelphia at the Barnes Foundation collection, and it's a classic case where you have this incredible art collection, but they've been investing in the fellows.
Yeah.
You become a Barnes Fellow, and you're able to study there and work among the masterpieces, if you will, and you go on. And I don't necessarily think that there are that many opportunities for young artists in Africa yet.
Well, Africa is a gold mine. I'm telling
For
you.
the talent.
Unfortunately, some of the talent are being stolen away easily. I have a friend of mine who finished from the same university I finished from, and he builds fighter jet engines in Canada. This guy was just Omo Yonibredi. Now he's in Canada building fighter jets. I have a lot of my friends that have been stolen, in the UK, in the US, everywhere. So for me, I feel that I want to be a light to those young guys. I want to be a hope, to them. I want to be able to be a role model who they can look at. I mean, I live in Nigeria all my life, and the only thing I only travel for things like this. So, and I will keep doing that,
Yeah.
we'll keep doing that.
And so we've talked about like the ability to generate interest outside. Tell me a little bit, are you selling your works inside Nigeria? Are people in this room buying? We were introduced by a mutual friend who even years ago, maybe 2 years ago, he showed me a picture of your work in his office in Lagos of a unicorn.
Yeah.
Because he's a startup founder and he wanted to inspire his staff with the idea of a unicorn made in Nigeria. And so is there a market locally, and how can everyone in this room help to support this ecosystem that you're generating?
You see, the art market in Africa is so huge that it's a potential that we don't pay attention to. Let me say, I'm just fortunate to chronicle my works as luxury. That is, you can't even have two of my work. You have one, let the next person have one. That is the kind of market I have created for myself. So, I mean, for instance, we have a show here today, and it's just one of my pieces that is there. So let Qatar enjoy one, let Dubai enjoy one, let India enjoy one. That is the best way, because I can't do too much.
Well, maybe Lagos can have 10.
Well,
the governor's here.
my governor would buy, definitely. So, in a way, it gives room for other artists to actually explore themselves. It gives room for other people to show their potential. For me, I don't want to be I don't want my work to just spread everywhere. I just want them to be timeless pieces. I want them to be pieces that you would cherish, you would nurture, you will respect, you will celebrate, you would like. So I have created that economy for myself, and I want to replicate the same thing for a lot of people. Let me tell you this. There are a lot of young Africans that if you see their work on Instagram, you probably would think maybe it was done, not done in Africa.
Right.
So, but these guys don't have the same platform I'm standing on today.
Yeah.
So that is the purpose of this conversation.
I was in May this past year. I was at the Milken Institute conference in LA, and on the panel was a Nigerian artist, Lalu, who lives in New York, and he was saying one of the things that kind of gets him every time is when he goes into an art store in New York, and he sees the thousands of different kinds of pencils. In every color, in every size, and he thinks about the kids that are making art with the small, just one little stub of a pencil. And so he says every time he goes back, he brings just suitcases full of all the pencils just to try to enable the artists with the tools. And you're saying exactly, they're making so much from little, but partly making so much from things around, which is what your pillar is of promoting sustainability.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is the narrative. I just feel that everyone here can join me in this movement. We can join me in this journey because it is so huge. I can't do it alone. I need the government, I need the banks, I need the investors to see my dream. I have too much huge dream. Like I said, the dream is too big. I listen to Sam Adeyemi who will tell you that you have to dream bigger than your head. And my dream is too big than my head. I can't comprehend it. So I need help, I need support to raise genius in Africa. I mean, that's the purpose,
Yeah, and this, I mean, obviously your statues are huge, so your dreams are even bigger.
Absolutely.
I think the question is how to structure the partnerships. And I hope that many in the room can think about this. What we've seen in the last, let's say, almost 10 years, I wrote a book that came out in 2015 about the emerging creative sector in African markets. And what we saw then compared to what today is, today it's become more of a business. Look at Afrobeats. Look at the success of so many different, the fashion, the success of so many different artists that are showing that it's not just about cultural preservation, it's not just about expression of creativity, in your case, sustainability, but it's also a business.
Absolutely.
So can we say a little bit more about the business case?
Well, you know, for the business case, I'm going to leave that to the Chinelos and to all the bosses here. I know that there's a business plan for this, there's a structure for this, and I'm very sure that this platform will redefine that aspect of it. But I just hope and I pray and I wish that you listen to my sound voice to see the pain, my request, and the passion.
Well, the passion certainly comes through, not only to create beautiful art, but to create an entire cadre of young artists to build in that vision. So really, join me in thanking Dotun for coming here, Dotun, and to really share his story. And I assume that he will be available afterwards. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me.